and Marotta. Bickley and Marotta mornings. Arizona sports. The local sports leader. Bickley Blast.
There's a general rule in professional sports. If your team is really bad and full of dysfunction, if your organization is trending hard in the wrong direction, you bring in an outsider to put out the fires. You bring in fresh eyes and a new approach. You do not promote from inside a burning house. But alas, the Suns seem hell-bent on doing things their way. A new report from Mar Stein says Matt Ishbia could forego a splashy hire and promote Brian Gregory to acting general manager. And if you've never heard of Brian Gregory, you're not alone. He's a former coach. He is currently serving as the team's VP of player programming, whatever that means. And yeah, he's a former Michigan State Spartan, having served on a Tom Izzo staff that featured a walk-on player named, wait for it, Matt Ishbia. Yep, red flags are flying everywhere. Like many others, I was gracious to Ishbia after his end-of-the-season press conference, saying he needed time to fail and learn. Problem is, while he's failing, I'm not sure he's learning. Promoting an anonymous executive to run your sunken basketball team is exactly what the worst of meddlers do, and we know from experience because we went through 2 decades of hands-on ownership at its very worst. This, folks, is a dangerous moment for Planet Orange, and maybe Ishbia tried to hire an outsider, only to be rebuffed because of the Suns' salary cap issues, or maybe he wasn't offering full autonomy. Either way, if you were hoping to convince basketball fans in the Valley that you are not a meddling owner, this is the worst way to get that done. All right, today's Bickley Blast brought to you by my great friends at Chapman BMW who make luxury attainable. Find them online at chapmanbmw.com.
Like I said today, like people give me a lot more credit than I deserve or blame me a lot more, whichever way you want to look at it. Like, I don't watch film. I don't know the players well enough to say this guy's going to fit with us or we should draft this guy. Like, that's not what an owner does. My job as an owner is to put the right people in place to make those decisions and set the tone. And I failed at setting the tone and that identity. That will change. So we will do that. And then we will have the right people executing on that plan. And whether it ties to any players we have, free agents, draft picks, players we have, trades, all that stuff will get flushed out in the next 60 to 90 days. Let's call it that.
All right, so, Kellen, I want you to reset because you did a deep dive on Brian Gregory and what credentials or lack thereof he brings to the table. But I would suggest this. I would suggest, and again, not to be hypocritical here because I have been a guy that has said, go find the up-and-coming Sam Presti. There have been any number of basketball GMs who have emerged in the past 5 to 10 years who are really good at their jobs. And you can tell by the way they've created their teams and stocked draft picks. You can find a guy like that. You can find your way out of this mess. So conceivably, Brian Gregory could be that guy, but the messaging, the symbolism, this would be an absolute debacle for Suns fans who are clamoring for a better, more coherent approach to building a basketball team. I would suggest that if Matt Ishbia took a page from Ken Kendrick, who took full responsibility for the signing of Jordan Montgomery and did so in a way that was, look, if you want someone to blame me. That was my stupid idea. I was and fans were like, way to go, man. That's transparent. We trust you. That's really cool. I'm convinced if Matt Ishbia did that, got in front of a microphone and said, look, I thought I had a plan. I tried this. I tried that. I tried this. It didn't work. I'm going to give the keys back to James Jones. And we're going to let him go back to doing what he did prior to it. I think fans would vibe around that more than they would this idea that, okay, I'm going to hire this guy that was once my coach at Michigan State.
It's one of those things where when a head coach gets hired or when a front office executive gets hired, these are not players. And what I mean by that is if the Suns sign Monte Morris as a backup point guard, I can go into the film, I can go back and watch everything, I can tell you how good or how bad he's been on the floor. If you bring in a head coach or an executive from this time when they were doing this, it's more difficult to analyze and really pick out, okay, what was them, what wasn't them in terms of the success, in terms of the failures, how much of that was on them? Whereas I can tell you, like, well, Monte Morris just didn't shoot well from here. On defense, he did that. It's a lot more, I want to say, subjective. So with all of that in mind, what we can do again is look at the resume. And to repeat the point that I made earlier, Brian Gregory's resume from an NBA standpoint is non-existent. He was a collegiate head coach for 2 decades. He was not entirely successful. At Dayton, he built a program nicely over nearly a full decade. Goes to Georgia Tech for 6 years, is not successful. Goes to South Florida for 6 years, is not successful. Over those 2 decades of head coaching experience, he is not coaching these potential first-round picks and evaluating the type of NBA talent that he will be evaluating if he is to get this job. So again, you go through the resume. Why is he getting this job? There aren't really any links from an NBA standpoint, but the one major link that is standing out is Matt Ishbia and how when he was an assistant coach at Michigan State, when he began doing that in 1999, he did so for the first 3 years, and Matt Ishbia was a player there. Again, this is the type of thing we could talk about where, oh, this guy is here just because he's tight with Ishbia and he coached him at Michigan State and he's a Michigan State guy, whatever. If that person, in theory, had a real NBA resume and, experience in an NBA front office that goes beyond a full calendar year, which it isn't even going to go beyond a full calendar year if this guy gets a job here in the next couple of days like people are expecting him to, it's a different story. But the credentials just aren't there.
No.
They're non-existent.
No. And so this is going to be an issue for Suns fans who think that the owner is kind of standing in the way here. And as however well-intentioned Matt Ishbia might be and however generous he might be, he's learning some hard lessons. No matter how much money you have, you cannot come into pro sports and just money whip a problem. You just can't. It's not a viable solution. And then when you look at what we have seen the last 2 seasons, the attempts to build around Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, the roster that has so many holes in it that doesn't, in hindsight, that doesn't really look coherent, and the way you build teams in the modern NBA, this is clearly an issue that goes well beyond who you are selecting to be the head coach. And there's going to be blowback on this if this is the way they choose to go.
Also, acquiring Bradley Beal with no thought to what happens if this doesn't work.
Well, that's probably the number one thing. But as I've said before, it's where's the accountability for all of these failed maneuvers? There was KD came in. They had a decent run of it. They had 2 spectacular games against the Nuggets in the playoffs before Chris Paul got hurt, and that was the end of it. And Book was kind of dinged up at the end of that. It's been downhill ever since.
And on the accountability thing, are we under the impression that if this Gregory thing does go through, that Bartlestein and James Jones will also still be a part of the front office and decision making?
I think the clarity will come with that news coming down, where we will understand more so what Bartlestein's, I would guess, new role is and what James Jones's, I would guess, new role is. But again, a critical thing to remember here, and I know people are listening and saying, oh my God, you guys just said that this is the biggest offseason since X and all this kind of stuff. Like, I understand the hyperbole that we tend to go to, and that's fine. But this is the summer the Suns need to get their ducks in a row and start building something.
Yes.
Because if they do not start building something again and they screw up again, Matt Ishbia himself said at his press conference where he can be patient if things are working. But if they're not working, again, that is where that patience runs out again, and you don't have any stability when you need it. And instead of this turning into a reset of 2 years, 3 years, a year, whatever it could be much, much longer than that they're in the basement.
Yeah. I was worried from the moment that Matt Ishbia said the new identity was going to be grimy and gritty. Because if you look up the definition of Michigan State basketball, if you ask AI, what is the identity of Michigan State basketball, it's exactly what AI will tell you. Gritty. Oh, boy.
Well, also, aren't you going to establish what your style of play is with your new front office and your new head coach?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, Kellen, indeed. Everybody, happy Thursday. Dan Bickley here, Kellen Olson in for Vinny. A lot of excitement surrounding the Cardinals after the NFL draft. And don't forget, the NFL regular season schedule will be released on Wednesday, May 14th, and Cardinals single game tickets go on sale that very same day. Sign up now at azcardinals.com/tix, T-I-X, to be notified as soon as tickets go on sale. And to play into that excitement, our great pleasure to welcome in one of the newest members of the Cardinals, outside linebacker Jordan Burch. Jordan, good morning. Thanks for joining us today. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing good.
So you said after the Cardinals drafted you that the sky is the limit for your upcoming NFL career. Tell Cardinal fans what they are getting in Jordan Burch.
Yeah, you're getting a competitive guy that's going to come into the building every day to work. A great locker room guy. I always like to have the guys around, create a bond. The end goal is to win the championship. So just, a guy everybody wants to have around that's going to make plays and, make the team better.
Jordan, when you got to know Jonathan Gannon through the pre-draft process or post-draft process, just kind of what stood out to him as not only a head coach, but just sort of the attributes that he lives by with football?
Yeah, he was just a guy I could talk to. He was smart. Like everything, I asked, he had an answer for. And, just sitting in the room, being able to talk to him, I felt like I was already on the team, just the way he went about things and, explained everything. So I feel like this is the perfect guy, to be able to play for him.
You'd also mentioned that you were kind of vibing on the fact that the Cardinals have a nice, real group of young coaches that they're very relatable to younger players. Could you elaborate on that? How important is that to a young football player?
Yeah, especially for a young player coming in, I'm going to have a lot of questions. I'm going to need to, see the whole picture of the defense. What do I need to do? The guy next to me is doing. And I feel like they really, agreed on that. That's a good thing for coaches to be able to explain to their players. And they were really thorough, telling me, like, this is what to look at when you're rushing or you're trying to stop the run. So I feel like that was a good thing to have.
Jordan, with the transition that you're making from college to the NFL, I was curious with Oregon specifically how that program helped prepare you for this transition, how it could have you maybe a step ahead of other guys given what that program expects out of you guys.
Yeah, it was really a lot about winning. Coach Lennon loved talking about winning and what we needed to do it. And then we had, different things on defense, different things to key in. I feel like a lot of people in the NFL still work on that. I feel like that was something that we brought in as soon as we got to Oregon. So I feel like that'll help me at the next level.
So your athleticism is obviously part of one of your many strengths. And if anybody hasn't seen the video of you on that fake punt while you're at Oregon, highly recommend it. What do you remember about that play when you took that snap and just motored?
Yeah, so we ran a regular punt earlier in the game, and we were kind of backed up. I'm running on the field, and coach kind of gave me like a head nod, like we're about to run it. I was like, okay, well, let's do it. And I think we started the play, and somebody came through free, and I was like, okay, I got to make a play. So I had to break a tackle. It was clear field. I'm trying to score, but it was just a great play. I was ready to run it all year.
Jordan, I'm terrified to think of what a high school offensive lineman was going through when they were trying to block you. And then we read that they were trying to block Xavier Thomas at the same time. How'd that go for those offensive lines that tried to block you guys? Guessing not well.
Man, it was a scary sight for them. Me and him being on the same line, being able to rush. I learned a lot from him, back in high school. But that was great. That was great having him on my team.
All right, so when you came out of high school, you were obviously a very, very highly ranked recruit. What happened at South Carolina? What led you to Oregon? And how do you look back on your collegiate career and what you accomplished?
Yeah, I was at South Carolina for 3 years. It was a great 3 years in my opinion. My last year, my junior year, was really the first year I really started playing. I think I had 60 tackles and 3.5 sacks. But I had like a talk with my mom and felt like I wanted to, get away. Be developed a little bit more, learning like 4-eye, 5, 6, 9, dropping in coverage. So, and I knew Coach Landon since I was in high school when he recruited me from Georgia. And I kind of like took that chance, went all the way across the country and, been a part of a different program.
You've been vaunted for your versatility, not only in terms of just being an edge guy, but playing at different spots on the defensive line as well. Can you break that down a little bit for us more, just the versatility that you bring on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, my coach always tell me, the versatility helps a lot, especially to the next level. And, if you're a 3-tech and you got to match up with a guard, and you're a faster guy, more athletic, you can win. They got shorter arms or on the edge if you're good with power rushes. So I feel like anyway a coach can use me, to get to the quarterback or affect the game. That's perfect. And, being a guy that can run fast, and I feel like I'm stronger at certain spots, wherever you need me at, I can do it.
You knew you were going to end up somewhere on day 2 of the NFL draft. You weren't sure it was going to be Arizona. What do you think about landing with the Cardinals, and how do you think you're going to fit here?
Yeah. Like you said, I didn't know where I was going. I was actually training out there at EXO, so, I was kind of familiar with the spot. Me and my guys been out there a few times. And I was just sitting there thinking, like, where could I go? But I kind of had a feeling like this might be a good spot for me. I didn't really know where in the draft I was going, but, if I'm set up in a good spot and be able to showcase, my ability, that's the best part about it. So I was happy with where I was at and, what spot I went to.
You were a part of an effort by the Arizona Cardinals to make this defense deep, and on the edge and that defensive line, it is a very deep group. How much are you looking forward to not only the veterans you'll be able to bounce off of, but the competitive aspect of you guys just fighting for every snap that you could get?
Yeah, that's what comes with it, man. I'm trying to be in a room with a lot of guys that have experience. I can ask questions, they can answer them, but really get after it. I'm coming in, trying to fight for a starting spot. So, whatever I can do, whoever I can ask questions, whoever I can piggyback on, to learn a lot. But, every time I step on the field, I'm trying to win the job.
All right, Jordan, you check a lot of boxes. One thing that Jonathan Gannon really likes is violent football players. So in your opinion, how much do you enjoy the violence of football, and what is your love for football? Where are you at on that meter?
Yeah, I love going against people, when you can figure out the offensive lineman really can't block you, it takes the fun out of the game for them. Just, seeing if they can handle you for 4 quarters is really the fun part about it. I enjoy the whole aspect of it. I used to play offense a lot too, so just seeing, people score touchdowns, and just on the defensive side, I feel like you can't recreate a sack. I played basketball before, dunking the basketball, but I feel like a sack, strip sack, that's got to be one of the best feelings ever.
Got to be pretty cool that you are now in the National Football League, sir. With what comes with that, is there any part of the experience you're looking forward to the most? Maybe it's a certain matchup. Maybe it's going to a certain stadium, facing a certain team. Is there anything with being a fan of the NFL growing up that you're now looking forward to as part of the NFL now?
I said being a part of the NFL, I'm looking forward to putting on that uniform, stepping on the field, putting on that uniform. That's just been a dream for me ever since I was a little kid, and I can't wait to, showcase my ability.
That's fantastic. All right, off the field, what are you into? What do you like? What do you do? Tell us a little bit about your personality.
Yeah, trying to learn a little bit of golf, working on my swing. I'm a little tall, so I got to get my club adjusted. I play video games. I was living in Oregon, so, we'll be outside a lot, getting into nature. But for me, I don't really do too much. Just try to enjoy my time. So, watch football, play football, play video games, stuff like that.
There you go.
What are the video games you're into, man? I'm a bit of a gamer myself. I will describe myself as that. What are you playing?
I play a little bit of NCAA, Madden, play Fortnite, Call of Duty, anything. We can run it.
How cool was it to play as yourself in NCAA? That must have been surreal, man. I can't imagine.
Oh, yeah. We got all the uniforms in the game, too, so I get Oregon. See number 1 coming off the edge. It was a great feeling.
Oh,
you playing your friends online? Like when you're playing defense, you're obviously playing as yourself. Like what are you doing on there?
I'll, drop myself in cover, see if I can catch a pick real quick. They really can't stop me from rushing, but, I'll move my player around in different positions.
That's fantastic. Jordan, thank you so much for your time this morning. We really look forward to seeing you play football for the Cardinals. Good luck to you, my man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Jordan Burch, newest member of the Cardinals from Oregon via South Carolina.
Look up that punt play, man.
Look up the punt play.
He's a freak.
It's like a young Chandler Jones coming at you.